Welcome to SI Show. This is Sharif here. Hope you are having an amazing day. I'm here to learn and grow with you together. In this channel, we'd like to take complex cryptocurrency topic and break them into simple English for you to understand. Today, I would like to play a video where 43rd Treasury of USA, Rosie Rios, is speaking at Global Business Summit discussing about XRP and Future of Money. Let's play the video and learn together.
Thank you so much. Great to be back again. I spoke yesterday, for those of you who heard me speak, about the global economic recovery and a comparative analysis between the financial crisis of 2008 to what we're going through today. But I'd like to speak about one of my favorite topics, which is money. So as Treasury of the United States, from 2009 through 2016 under the Obama administration, I actually led the Future of Money initiative on behalf of the administration. And together we worked very closely with the Federal Reserve, which is our central bank. And our central bank determines monetary policy. Obviously, Treasury was fiscal policy. But I also oversaw all currency and coin production for the U.S. government. I had 4,000 very proud manufacturing employees producing both currency and coin. And together we had to come up with a way to predict and think about supply and demand. And one of the data points that we used in this process was working very closely on consumer behavior. Now, if you looked at, if you heard me speak yesterday, you heard me say that consumer behavior is the hardest to change unless there's a shock to the system. So I'm going to share some findings, some recent findings that I think will help us really think about what the future of money looks like. And just a little bit of background. So yes, that is me up there with the chair of the Federal Reserve at the time, Ben Bernanke, and my boss, Secretary Tim Geithner. And this is when we were unveiling the new $100 bill in 2013. So if you look at your U.S. currency, you can look on the slide. That is my name on the lower left-hand side of U.S. currency. I am currently on about $1.8 trillion of U.S. currency in circulation worldwide out of the $2.2 trillion. So no one makes more money than I do. So that is true. That is absolutely true. I'm going to say that again. So I had the pleasure of being one of the longest serving senior Treasury officials in the Obama administration, and most recently also on the Treasury transition team for President Biden, working closely with the previous administration to make sure that that President Biden was well prepared in the areas of fiscal policy when he took office in January of 2021. So, excuse me. Okay, I had trouble with this yesterday. Hopefully we'll get this going. There it is. Okay. So one of the things that we use in the administration is something called the Diary of Consumer Payment Choice that is conducted by the Federal Reserve every year. This has been in place since 2016. And this really gives us a really good flavor of consumer behavior. And I hope you pay attention to this, although this is very US-centric. I think it does paint an interesting picture of the future of money in general. So the diary collects data about shopping and payments behavior from a unique, nationally represented survey of customers. This universe of household comprises approximately 9,000 respondents, so it is statistically significant, across the United States, about which half completed the diary. And this is for 2021, which is the most recent information. But what you will notice is that this was also during the pandemic. So very interesting information. I am one of those people that live and breathe by this diary. I read it cover to cover, and it is fascinating and a very long study. So I'm going to take just the snippets of what I think is relevant to this discussion about consumer behavior. So overall, the results show that a substantial portion of the population, believe it or not, continue to use cash to make everyday purchases and to hold cash as a store of value. Now, I remember in 2011, 2012, when everyone thought that Google Wallet was going to take over the earth. Everyone thought, and actually I got the direction at that time to wind down production of coin and currency. And I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it because, again, consumer behavior is hard to change. I also didn't believe it because coin and cash usage actually follows the path of GDP growth. That has been the historic trend from day one. So as we were predicting at that time, 3 to 4% of GDP growth, why wouldn't we predict that coin and currency usage was also going to grow? Well, I was correct. Now, when I started, there was about $835 billion of U.S. currency in circulation. When I left, there was almost $2 trillion of U.S. currency in circulation. So it basically doubled. Now, some might say that's store of value, and that is true. There was a big part of that was store of value, but you look at coins. At the time that I started, we were producing 3 billion coins a year in 2009. Any guesses on what it was when I left in 2016? And by the way, these numbers aren't my numbers. These are the numbers that come from banks who produce the orders that come to us. So remember, I started at $3 billion in 2009. What was it when I left? Any guesses in 2016? Raise your hand if you have a guess. 16 billion. And it still continues to this day. So again, consumer behavior, very hard to change unless there's a shock to the system. So what this shows, this particular slide shows, is that consumers continue to use credit cards and debit cards for a majority of their payments. That's not news. Accounted for 57% of total payments in 2021. So the decrease in the share of cash used during the pandemic is a result of the following factors. Again, the pandemic was very, very clearly impacting consumer behavior in this case. One, consumers shop less in person, resulting in a lower share of in-person payments overall and fewer opportunities to use cash in 2020 and 2021 compared to 2019. I think that's pretty obvious. Fewer consumers reported a preference for using cash when making payments in person. Again, the pandemic just caused a whole other relationship with how we physically had with cash and currency, right? Again, remote payments, online payments were definitely more of the issue there. Excuse me, there it is. Okay. On another slide here, the percentage of purchases and person-to-person payments made in person versus online or remote. What this shows is remote and online purchases of prepared foods and groceries were a factor in this change shopping behavior in 2020. One of the largest shifts in shopping behavior was a decrease in the number of in-person payments at fast food and coffee shops, sit-down restaurants, bars, and grocery and convenience stores. Again, that's pretty obvious what the pandemic did to change this consumer behavior. What this slide shows is that person-to-person behavior, again, very much impacted, where approximately 1.5 payments over the last 3 years, consumer reduced the share of cash payments and increased their use of mobile phones. Mobile apps really took hold, especially during the pandemic. That's what this slide shows. I'm seeing my time go very, very quickly here. My apologies. So one of the things that this shows, the share of payments used for in-person payments, consumer reduced their share of cash use across all ages by a statistically significant amount compared to 2019. Consumers younger than 45 used cash for less than 20% of their payments. Older consumers, like me, used cash for more than 20%. I still rely on cash. I still think it's safe, it's liquid, it's accessible, it's used everywhere. And for a lot of people, especially during the downturn, during this economic recovery, people use cash also to budget their expenses. So again, for people like me who are kind of used to cash, it would definitely came in handy for those who continue to want to use cash for those purposes. Now this is interesting. This share of adults holding on-person cash at least 1 day. The share of consumers holding on to cash has remained consistent since 2018, with 8 in 10 adults holding cash at least once during the diary. This consistency suggests that most adults prefer to have some cash on hand, both in normal years and in unusual years. Average store value. Again, another interesting statistic here. In contrast to the average value of on-person holdings, the average value of cash held in one store value holdings continued its increase in October of 2021, reaching $347. As the slide shows, consumers' average store value holdings have increased more rapidly since 2018, with increases of 22% in 2019, 24% in 2020, and 20% in 2021. This significant increase in the average value held since 2019 shows again that aggregate demand for U.S. currency increased during times of uncertainty. February of last year, and the purpose of this executive order, excuse me, it was March of last year, the purpose of this executive order was to encourage regulators to ensure sufficient oversight, encourage the Financial Stability Oversight Council to identify and mitigate financial risks, directs and coordinated action across agencies to mitigate illicit financing, promote safe and affordable financial services, and then explore, yes, a U.S. central bank digital currency. Now, you may know that over 80% of developed countries right now are looking at a central bank digital currency. It will happen, and it will happen in the U.S., but it's absolutely going to take some time. As you know, things don't happen very, very quickly, especially when it comes to the central bank. Now, they are taking this very, very seriously. The U.S. currency is a world reserve currency, so it is important for them to get this right. But I guess my point to that would be I wouldn't hold your breath anytime soon. It is going to take a considerable amount of time because it is a world reserve currency. It's accepted everywhere before the Federal Reserve actually decides to back a central bank digital currency. It absolutely will take some time. So over the past year, the agencies across the government have worked together to develop frameworks and policy recommendations that advance the 6 priorities identified in that executive order. To date, there have been 9 reports that have been submitted. They're all online. They are all available for public consumption. But I would say most recently, in the fall of 2022, Treasury published a series of reports in response to President Biden's executive order. The Financial Stability Oversight Council, which the Secretary of the Treasury chairs, published a report just this last October that examined the potential financial stability implications of crypto asset activities. As you know, crypto has been in the news time and time again, and I just want to share that I am on the board of Ripple. Ripple is XRP. And so when people ask me the question, why did you join the board of Ripple? I joined the board of Ripple because XRP serves a purpose. It's a function that facilitates cross-border payments. It's not some store of value, kind of arbitrary value that is not pegged to anything. This is actually what legitimate financial institutions use, specifically for cross-border payments. So instead of days and dollars, it's seconds and cents. And that is the future, in my opinion. And again, this is a function. So this utility piece, when it comes to crypto, is very, very important. Again, there's no doubt in my mind that digital assets are becoming mainstream. Absolutely no doubt. And for me, it is that underlying technology that's important. It is blockchain. So, of course, we all know what blockchain is. And blockchain is not going away anytime soon. In my opinion, it absolutely is the future of commerce. Whether it is real estate, whether it is art, whether it is NFTs, it is absolutely here to stay. And so it's very, very important for the administration to get this right. It will take some time. And obviously what we experienced with FTX is just the beginning. Unfortunately, the FTX debacle really put the antenna up, the radar up on what to expect in the future. And I think there's going to be a lot more caution. And look, you know, we shouldn't let one person in what has been considered kind of an unregulated industry take the fall for everyone. This is, you know, in every industry, whether you're regulated or not, there will always be bad actors. But unfortunately, in this case, because crypto is still very nascent, it'll absolutely kind of pause a lot more in terms of how to approach this the right way. As you heard the minister say, there's no doubt in my mind that innovation should not be stymied by regulation. Absolutely not. But there is a way that, in my opinion, that regulators can work hand in hand with the private sector. It has to happen early. It has to happen very, very early. If you heard me speak this morning at the Leadership Council, I talked about how important it is for the conversations to happen early and often, and they have to sustain themselves. And so, you know, for me, I stayed in the administration as long as I did, for 8 years, because I wanted to make sure that those conversations as a senior government official start and continue through. And that's very important in any administration, is to have that stability and that consistency. And that's what I think it's going to take for the crypto market, and in this case, digital assets in general, to really take hold. But I do think there is a path forward. I do think there is a path forward, and I do think it is going to take, again, a lot of patience with the private sector, but I also think it's going to take a lot of interaction with the private sector. And again, from my perspective, that utility is going to be the key, not just about perceived value that's going to be up and down based on some arbitrary floating values. Utility is going to be a big part of this. And I do think, again, because a lot of this innovation is generating the jobs that it's going to take for this recovery to be on track, that the administration needs to continue to invest in this, not pull back, but invest further, invest the time and care that it's going to take for the right regulations, the right bills to be introduced, and again, how these assets can be utilized to benefit all of Main Street, not just the investors, but the users themselves. And I still will continue to play a very pivotal role in this. I am absolutely engaged, again, not just on the private sector side, but on the policy side. And it is my commitment moving forward, because in my opinion, money does make the world go around, but this is really more about jobs. This is more about utility, and this is more about the future of commerce and how we think about using technology in a responsible.
Thank you for watching the video with me. I would like to send a message to all XRP holders and XRP army. Be patient. We will get there. We will get there sooner than you think. Thanks again. Have a great day. Don't forget to like and subscribe the video for more video like this.